Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Duology Theater was made possible by producer Nolan Matten. Thank you, Nolan. It was also made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
Welcome to Duology Theater, a show where we look at famous duologies. I don't know if they're famous. I don't know why I called them famous.
Yeah, I don't know what this bit
movie
is that you're doing
duologies.
right now.
A movie and its sequel, and we talk about them as individual movies and as duologies as a whole.
Yes, they're movie series that only consist of 2 films.
Yeah, you've listened to it.
You guys know the drill by now.
It.
Probably. I mean, maybe you haven't. Maybe this is the
Yeah.
first time you're checking out this miniseries and you were like, ooh, Tron.
Yeah, maybe. We have 2 months left. Our Patreon producer, Nolan, has given us the authority to make about 6 months worth of this show, which means for our second to final month, we have chosen the Tron series. Tron and Tron Legacy.
Yes.
Now, Tom, you have not seen Tron Legacy.
I have never seen Tron Legacy, and I had not seen Tron for probably over 30 years.
That is exciting to me.
I had zero memory of Tron except for, random images and stuff.
Right, because I'm what you would call a Tron fan, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Technically speaking, in the sense that I really enjoy this movie, but I mostly enjoy Tron Legacy. I think Tron Legacy is a very underrated movie. We'll get to it, but I think it might be better than the original.
I hope so.
This movie is a little slow.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Yes.
This movie throws you right in to the computer world and, you don't know what the fuck is going on for a solid 30 minutes.
I would argue the opening, you're like, wait a second.
What the fuck is this?
Yeah, who the fuck is Crom and Ram?
Yeah.
What is this bullshit?
What the fuck is this? I'm unclear who's a real person and who belongs to the computer world. It
is very difficult to follow at first because the premise for people, I feel like Tron's a movie that a lot of people know of but
haven't seen.
Watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an epic adventure about someone trying to hack a corporate computer to lift security restrictions.
Yes.
That's
it. Oh yeah.
It's a reverse Matrix.
Well, it's an okay. It's an epic adventure about a guy trying to print a document.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It's incredible. Yeah. And I want to talk about the making of it at some point, but it's sort of the making of it is equally the same, which is a lot of effort for something that seems like it'd be simple. But it wasn't at the time. What was this, 1985?
Oh, no. 1982.
1983? Too? This is a pretty important film when it comes to effects.
For sure, yeah. The effects and the look of the film are genuinely really impressive.
Yeah, this also has a lot of... I guess I'll get into... Should I talk about a little of the making of, or should we talk about that after?
I think we should probably talk about it afterwards, right? Because don't we normally talk about the movie? And actually, I don't know what we normally do.
I think it's freestyling, man.
It's jazz, baby.
Yeah, it's jazz.
It's just jazz.
Yeah, so the way the movie works, though, is it's the story of a computer software programmer who gets his video game stolen by his boss and gets fired. And he runs an arcade called Flynn's Arcade, played by, Jeff.
Played by Jeff Bridges. Also,
Old Jeff.
Flynn's Arcade is played by a building that was 10 blocks from us in Culver City.
Yes, if you remember, we couldn't get served there. It's a restaurant now.
Yeah, it was a restaurant where we placed reservations and we showed up there and then they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It was
so bad restaurant, good location.
Bad restaurant, good location. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the heart of Culver City, right, with the Culver Hotel, which is a very historic film area where it's like, because as you can imagine, they did a lot of the stuff around there because Sony is there, which I don't think was Sony at the time. I know The Wizard of Oz was shot right there.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter.
None of this matters.
Great ArcLight.
Yeah, sure. That's one of the things that pissed me off about that restaurant being kind of like snobbish. It's like, motherfucker, there's a Chipotle across the street.
Right.
What do you think this is?
Yeah. Not only is there a Chipotle, there are great restaurants that are just all around there. So it's like they're competing and they're treating us like we're fucking dirt made of garbage. Fuck those guys.
Fuck that restaurant. That's just going to be this entire podcast just going to be us shitting on that restaurant.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember what it was called.
I don't either. We just wanted to go there because it was Flynn's Arcade.
Yeah, exactly. And so him and his friends are very willing to help him sneak into his old work. His friends who also work there.
Yeah, they all used to work together. Every employee at this company is dis-fucking-gruntled.
Yes. Well, as you would be, because the idea is David Warner, who is running the company, has this master control program that's running everything now. Mm-hmm. And the program has kind of taken over and is telling him what to do. It's blackmailing him.
Right, and it's like planning to raid the Pentagon and like all
bad program.
Yeah, it's becoming not Skynet, but it's becoming like HAL.
It's like it's reverse Matrix. Yeah. It's becoming Agent Smith.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And so Jeff Bridges gets snuck into his job, and the B story is that his ex-girlfriend, who is dating, forget all their names, Alan and
Laura.
What's her
Laura,
character?
I think.
Laura, who helped sneak him in. She's working on a laser that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And they don't treat it as such.
Right.
They're basically working on teleportation. They can shoot the laser at something, in this case an orange, which we see it breaks it down and can put it in the computer and then bring it back out. Mm-hmm. So Jeff Bridges uses her workstation to do the hacking, to try to find evidence that his boss stole from him. The master control program, which knows about him, about Flynn, wants to stop him, so he sucks him into the computer. And in the computer, it turns out,
does.
And I guess the idea is that this is going on in every computer.
That's what's unclear is that every computer seems to be connected to every other computer. Like David Warner's, what's his like little program's name is like Serac or something.
Right.
He's in the arcade game in Flynn's Arcade. And he's also in the computers at their work.
Well, I don't think at Flynn's Arcade, I don't think they ever actually go into Flynn's Arcade game. Or in that machine. I thought those were the games that were in the...
maybe that's it. Okay.
Like he designed the games, so they're in those computers too.
Okay.
So I think it's just a big network in this building, but it's still the idea that this is just what's in a computer, right? Yeah. There's nothing special about the fact that they're sentient creatures. And what you learn is basically all the programs are sentient creatures within a matrix. It's a reverse matrix. It's them, and there's a religious war of some people believe in the users being the people who created them, and others are denying the existence, which is the master control program that's doing.
Yeah.
Of like denying it, even though it knows.
Yeah.
And so the reason it's confusing is the programs are played by the actors who are the users who made the program.
Yes.
It makes me wonder what a half-done program looks like. That's got to be a real monster.
Yeah, it just looks like a real homunculus.
Yeah.
Also,
just an abomination.
All these programs are like have really stupid names that you would never name a program.
Yeah, well, I can tell you why Tron is called Tron.
Sure.
because Tron is Alan's.
Right, Tron program. Is not even the main character, and the movie is called Tron.
Well, I know why. Is because Steven Lisberger, the director, I won't go too much into the behind the scenes, but he owned his own animation studio, and this all came from a short film that he made and then sold as a radio promo to like different regional radio stations, because he made it and then he was like, I don't know what to do with this. I should probably make money out of it. And it was like a cartoon character named Tron who looked very much like this style, and they called him Tron because it was short for electronic. That's where Tron comes from.
Okay.
And so I think they just liked the name. And so they needed to have a character named Tron in this, and then name the... And I think they realized that Jeff Bridges isn't playing a program. Well, he plays Clue at the beginning. Yeah. That's the confusing part, is because you see Jeff Bridges in the program playing Clue, and you're like, wait, what is that?
Right. It was super unclear because it shows him in the real world on the computer, and then it shows him starting up this program, and then it cuts to his program Clue in a tank inside the computer, and I was super unclear at first. Like, wait, is he transporting himself into the computer right now?
Right. I think it's supposed to be unclear, but it is. I think the weirdest thing about this movie is that they introduced that concept before Jeff Bridges gets sucked in.
Yeah.
Because they do this like text. This is meanwhile in the real world, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
like it's something I always forget about this film is that you think of it as like an Alice in Wonderland situation. He gets sucked in, and then it's the world. But they introduced the world first, and I feel like that wasn't a good idea. I feel like that was like a production note. Them like, "No, you got to hook them. You got to hook them early." They didn't want people to get bored right away, I guess.
Sure.
That's my guess. So yeah, it's what is it, level 7 access or something? They lock out all the employees of this level of access, and he needs to get that access. So while he's sucked into this computer, he learns about the big religious war. David Warner's character, or his programs, are in there working for the Master Control program. They wage war on Flynn and other programs who are his friends, including Tron, who fights for the users.
Yeah.
Because he's a security program that Alan made in his image. And basically they take Flynn and they throw him into the games, which are designed as like forms of execution in the society and the computer. And they're based off of the games he designed. And that's where we get the famous like light cycles that everybody knows. He breaks out of those with the friends, and they have to get to them. They have to communicate with Alan. They all have discs, memory discs, that store everything that make them them.
And are also lethal weapons for some reason.
Yes. It's like if your brain, you could like take it off of you and hit somebody with.
Yeah.
They download like special stuff onto Tron's disc. They go to the Master Control program and they fight it. And they beat it. David Warner becomes giant.
He does. After getting his electronic brains knocked out of his electronic head.
Yeah. And then Flynn goes back to the real world, and he is successfully hacked.
Yep. And he gets a little printout that just says essentially, yes, David Warner stole this program from Flynn. End of message. And he tears it out of there like it's like the most incriminating evidence in the world.
Right. You could just type
like
that
a single computer printout.
I assume David Warner gets the message too, so I assume there's something official about it. Like, I just sort of was like, okay, movie, that doesn't seem very official, but I'll believe you.
Sure, maybe it was more official back then. I don't know.
Yeah. The realization is they have these things called the I.O. towers, which feel like video game landmarks, because they go to one, and the I.O. tower is basically just how they communicate with their users, and it's like this apocalyptic world where all the towers are shut down but one. And then at the end, they're like, the I.O. towers, they're lighting up. And I realized that's just on a computer. In the real world, they're like, oh, we have our access again.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's all that is. Yeah. So it's this big, like, Lord of the Rings-esque victory in the computer to do something pretty mundane in the real world.
Yeah, to log into your work computer.
Yeah, which is part of why I like this movie. Again, reverse Matrix. It's the Matrix before the Matrix, where it's all these people who don't realize they're in this other world. It's just reversed in that you start from the outside and you go inside.
Yeah, and also the stakes are incredibly, incredibly low.
Yes. Well, I think that was a production note because they were like, make the Master Control Program hack the Pentagon. Show that the Master Control Program, coincidentally, like on the side, is planning to take over the world.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I think I know what this movie is about. Especially since how it was made, some of the details. One detail I want to share is the fact that this was brought to Disney with a new director, an idea that never been done before. And Disney took a huge risk on this movie. And one of the things they talked about was that the animation department at Disney was very, they kept to themselves. They were very closed off. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a Disney animation. Spoilers for the behind the scenes. There's not much CGI. This is actually mostly an animated film.
Yeah.
And so they talk about that and how like their reception at Disney was very like cold. And they started pre-production there. I think this movie is about just corporate energy, about being sucked into a large corporation.
Yeah,
because they're all analogies for being a corporate entity, being part of a corporate entity. The programs, I mean, there's obviously like the big one in charge. Everybody's supposed to do what they're designed to do, or else they get eliminated. There's an old cynical program.
Yeah.
Who's been there a while and is just waiting to be killed off.
Yeah.
It's all just like working for a company like the company in this Encom. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much, I think, the subtext of the movie. It's not much more complicated than that, I don't think.
No. I mean, it's also about conformity, but that's, that's part of the corporate structure message,
right.
And oppression. Again, all that's part of the corporate structure message.
And water cocaine.
Yeah, that scene.
I still don't know what that
I don't know
means.
what that was. There's energy in its purest form. I'm like, okay, what is that?
I think it's water.
What are you
cocaine.
drinking? Because Jeff Bridges is real into it, and I'm like, will that kill him? Yeah. He's a person.
He sticks his face in there.
Yeah, he does. He shoves his whole fucking face right into that energy fountain, right in that glistening electric water.
There's a lot of questions about what Jeff Bridges is when he's in that world.
Right, he's like a vampire. Like he can absorb the program's life force, and he can basically just like create shit around himself. Like he just repairs that big ship. Using he's
reverse Neo.
Human powers. Yeah, that's true. He's reverse Neo.
Yeah. I'm not, and I don't know. I don't think he has organs. I kind of want to see him die so I can see what happens to him.
No, I want to dissect him.
Yeah, like an alternate version of this is he loses at the disc game, falls and disintegrates, and then it's a hard cut to that laser and like blood sprays out the side of it. Like blood and guts ooze out the side, like a Play-Doh factory.
Yeah, it's just like a fucking jet of blood just shoots out of the front of it, like Army of Darkness style.
This movie is fucking wild.
Can we talk about the old man's hat?
Yes.
When they go to the tower and they find the old man, and he's dressed like a fucking elf wizard for some reason. What universe is this?
I think drugs. Right?
Probably.
Like
it's that water cocaine.
Making this were doing drugs. It's that water cocaine,
bro.
I mean, there's the solar sail. I don't know what that is.
Right? How can there be a solar sail inside of a computer?
In the making of, they specifically point out there's no sun. That's part of the lighting choices they made. Yeah. It's kind of nonsense. I think there's...
Dave, I got to be honest, I didn't need the behind the scenes to point out to me that there wasn't a sun. I can see that.
That's fair. I think the idea of the movie, watching it this time, I was trying to imagine what is the actual representation of a computer being done in this. And I came to the conclusion that you have to be very generous.
Yeah.
Because computers then were kind of old. So, like, for example, Alan needs to talk to his program to give him the information of how to shut down the master control program. I guess here's what it is what makes a computer work is the user makes commands that then make the programs do something. In this version, the programs do stuff.
Yeah.
From their own like will.
Yeah, the programs have to get to some place and like signal to their users that they're ready to be used. And I got to tell you, that's a terrible computer.
Yeah, well, here's my theory. My theory is that they don't have a will. They think they have a will. So, for example, a program saying, I have to get to this tower to tell my user something or to get something from my user, that's just the journey the program's making electronically as commanded by the user. And we're seeing it play out very slowly. Like, I like to think everything that happened to Flynn happened in seconds.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And I think Tron Legacy plays with that a little bit, time. And so I think the idea then is that Flynn is so almost like a virus because he goes into the computer. He doesn't have a user. He's not programmed. So from Alan's point of view, he's like, where the fuck is my program? What's going on? But then there's like, I think the idea is when they're fighting other programs, that's like the strength of the program's ability to get through like security measures or something like that.
I mean,
like again, the fighting is preordained.
Tron himself is a security program.
Exactly. So when he fights programs, we already know technically if he's going to win or not because he's either been programmed to win or he hasn't been. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Is that since it's all programs, like when you make a program to fight a virus, unless you're in real time changing those things, it's only either gonna clean up the virus, it's gonna win, or it's not, depending on how powerful a virus is, how powerful two programs are. So I assume when they're like American Gladiator fighting, it doesn't really matter like what's happening. It's just whoever is programmed better would be the winner anyway.
Sure.
Like I said, Tom, very generous.
Yeah, you're doing a whole lot of work for this movie.
No, I think
pretty sure when I double click on my Google icon on my desktop, it doesn't have to play Hi-Li.
What if
against
it did?
The other apps on my computer.
But what if it did, Tom? What if this is what's happening in computers?
But that doesn't make any sense.
What if Audacity is just kicking ass right now?
Right, yeah. They're fighting for memory. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
No, this movie was made by people who didn't care to know how computers worked.
No.
And
it's a very thin veneer just to have an excuse to create this world.
Right. What's funny is that when you watch behind the scenes, it's actually made by people who know how computers work because they had to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
To make the movie. So it's very funny that they it's not that they don't care to know, it's that they don't think the public cares to know. And I guess they're right for this, where they're like, it doesn't fucking matter.
Well,
what does
also
it matter?
the people working on the computer effects in this film did not write it.
Well, that's what's interesting is they had to we'll get into it, but the interviews and stuff, they do know because they had to work directly with this stuff because it was so new that like the director kind of had to prove that it could work and had to supervise it and had to be paying a lot of attention. So, the only people who seemed in the interviews to not know what was going on was the actors.
Yeah. Who
were just like, yeah, they put me on an all black screen and they said like, you're on a bicycle. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, I'm sure if you ask Jeff Bridges what Tron is about, he'd be like, I don't know.
Well, I would disagree with that, actually. I would disagree because of Tron Legacy felt like it's like weirdly more spiritual, and his character is a big part of that. I think Jeff Bridges likes Tron. In his interview that I watched, he produces the helmet he wears in the movie and puts it on.
Oh, that's delightful. Well, I'm not saying
it's older Jeff Bridges wearing the helmet. I'm not saying, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, like it's like when they're telling him what to do on set. I'm sure he's just like, "All right, well, just tell me what my character's doing, and I'll go ahead and do that."
Yeah. They interview the old guy in this, who's also he's the Tower Lord. He's the Tower Lord, and is he the guy who's in the lab?
Yeah.
Earlier, who starts doing the play on words of "here goes nothing."
Yes, yeah.
And it's like, all right, you're a nightmare to work with.
Yes,
sir.
He's the guy that's there, and also the guy that comes to complain to David Warner.
Okay, yeah, he's like the Steve Jobs.
Yeah, he's the
company.
Wozniak. Yeah,
yeah. And he's also been shoved into this one little area. This movie. Man, it's a hell of an accomplishment that I think this is one of the reasons I'm going to say Tron Legacy is better, is that they didn't really have the ability to do what they needed to do to make this movie.
I don't know. I think.
How did you like it, by the way? Did you enjoy it?
It's fine. It's kind of boring. It looks nice, but like it's nice that it was only 90 minutes. I don't know. It's just boring and kind of silly.
Yeah,
and just it's real hard to. Like, I guess computers seemed more fantastical to the general public back then.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the Matrix is silly for the same reason. It's just a little more realized, a little more. We knew what computers were, or did we? Because we're powering the computer in the Matrix with human bodies in cocoons.
Yeah, the Matrix is also years and years into the future, right? So,
yes, I think if this movie was more exciting, people wouldn't care as much about those details. What I like about this movie is very rarely do we get to see original fantasy. That is something we haven't really seen before. Mm-hmm. It's only so many things.
That's true.
And Tron is extremely original. I think
it is. I wish it wasn't so. I mean, it is. It's an original in terms of concept, but the story is extremely straightforward and very tropey.
Yes,
we got to get from A to B to stop the Dark Lord. Okay.
Yeah, I do like that the romantic subplot isn't really a romantic thing. It's that Jeff Bridges' ex-girlfriend is dating his friend Alan, and they seem generally cool with that. And then when they're programs, he like makes a move on her, which I didn't quite think was needed. Mm-hmm. And then that's sort of it.
Yeah.
It felt like there was like, and then at the end they're just pals. It ends very abruptly. It ends with the printout. And then a helicopter landing, and Jeff Bridges gets out, and he's clearly running NCOM.
Yeah. Yes, David Warner's job.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Which I would like to know the journey there, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be like, oh, you stole his game? All right, he's boss
right,
now.
He's the boss now.
I'm pretty sure they'd give him money.
Yeah.
And that's about it. He doesn't even have... Like, a lot of time must have passed because he doesn't have rights to the company. He didn't help create NCOM. He just worked for them.
Yeah.
So I think the implication is that he sued, won so much money that he got control over the company.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Again, I don't think a judge was just like, he gets the company now.
No, I'm sure that didn't happen. I mean, it's a very simplistic view of how this works.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
Also, anything he developed while working there would just belong to them anyway.
Yeah.
They
it's
technically don't have to give him shit.
It's a very naive premise about how tech companies would function.
What the extent of what they might do is they might fire David Warner, and they just put Jeff Bridges' name on the games.
Yep.
That's it.
They probably wouldn't fire David Warner. Although maybe they fired him because of... I assume something terrible happened in that computer. when they're all like, we're free. Ah! There's got to be just people at the computer like, what the fuck? Oh, this is fucked. This computer's fucked.
I think we just need to just burn this whole building down.
Yeah. I think we're done.
We just need to blow up.
I don't think we can use the wires. Yeah.
Programs are fucking in there. Has Jeff Bridges introduced the concept of kissing?
Right. He kissed a program. That's fucking weird. It's a fucking weird movie.
It is, yeah. It's it's buck fucking wild.
Yes. What would help you know is understand it is that Disney butted in with their own ideas when it went to Disney. So I'm guessing it's just like maybe there was a version of this. They're like, we were really streamlining it. We have this cool concept, cool plot. And then Disney's like, can you make a little like cute little dot that's like a bit and it's a pet? And they're like, sure. Fucking sure. Like, can they ride on like motorcycles? And it's like, oh, I guess we could figure that out.
Fuck yeah, they
like,
can ride on motorcycles.
Yeah. Disney basically described this as being a Fantasia type film, is how they were thinking of it. They were thinking a lot about Swiss Family Robinson and 20,000 Leagues. This is before the Disney Renaissance as well.
Oh, yeah. Wait. So this is when they started to have a series of failures.
Yes, and that's part of why they took on Tron. The story behind it is that they were like, we really don't understand this, but it has video games in it, and kids love video games, and we need to do something. And the old studio people were very nervous, and the young people seemed excited, so they were like, fuck it, let's do it. We got nothing else going on.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Yeah. I think it's fair. Should I go into some behind the scenes? There's some remarkable people worked on this movie.
Sure.
For example, you know who did the music?
Journey.
No. Should have been. It was Wendy Carlos. You know what else she's done? The Shining and Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Shining theme. So that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that is pretty huge. Journey did do music for this movie, by the way. Yeah.
Did they? Oh, okay. Sid Mead did the light bikes. He designed a lot of the vehicles, a lot of the look. You would also know him from designing vehicles and sets from such movies as Blade Runner, Aliens, Elysium, Johnny Mnemonic, Time Cop, and the new Blade Runner. His art was also the inspiration for the AT-AT in Star Wars. So, yeah. This guy's, he died recently. He's got a lot of movies that we can think of.
Yeah.
Those are mainly the two that really
primarily Johnny Mnemonic.
Yes.
You should really thank him for Johnny Mnemonic.
And Time Cop, those vehicles in Time Cop.
Yeah.
They're fucking great. Those limousines with a bunch of shit taped on them.
They look like dog shit.
Yeah. Look, he designed, he didn't make.
I would personally leave those off of my resume if I were him.
Yeah.
It's like, those looked like shit.
Yeah.
Congrats for designing them, but you should have tried a little bit harder.
Yeah. As we said, Flynn's Arcade was Culver City. Most of the company, Encom, was a power plant or like a lab or something. And the making of, they talked about how there was a roped off radioactive area.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And they were like very nervous about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, justifiably.
There's like literally a rope that was like, don't pass this area.
It's quiet as it's kept, ropes do not contain radioactive material.
It's true. Very true. The actress, she had to be she accidentally stepped in there and they had to like scrub her. Most of it though is a sound stage. They were originally going to do a white background, but that was awful to light, so they were like, can we do it with a black background? It was filmed, and this is going into the CGI, because only about 20 or 15 minutes of this film is actually CGI. The rest is they shot the actors on black and white. They projected each frame into another frame that was about 20 by 12 inches. They're clear, so like only the blacks would go through, would like show up, and they had to isolate each frame for each part of them of different like colors and shading. Each month took about each minute took about a month. So they outsourced to Taiwan.
Like you do.
Yeah, to a production company there. And they had a lot of problems with the films that you can see in the movie. Like the film would go bright suddenly for a few frames, and they couldn't figure out why. So they just animated it into the movie where it was like glitches or like lights that were flying by.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Most of the CGI is just like matte paintings, filters that are put over the camera. And even the CGI, it's all optical effects, you know? To the point that like they went to like 4 companies for the CGI. None of them could communicate or streamline with each other because they all had different systems. Because it was so new. It was like 10 minutes a frame for rendering, and the way they talk about how they'd animate is a nightmare. Is that they would they couldn't watch the animation as they were planning it. There was no previs. They could only see frames on a computer, and they wouldn't know how they would look together. And what they'd have to do is they would have to write down the exact XYZ coordinates of where each object needed to like go in each frame. And that was how they did the animations. They basically said, okay, on this grid that we're looking at, they took out graph paper. They wrote down XYZ coordinates of every frame of this object, like the light bike going from A to B, you know? And then they would give them to programmers who would just type it in a computer. And then finally they would later see it all processed on a soundstage to know if any of it worked out. So it was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah. Because again, no one had done this before. It's quite a production. And I don't know. It's if people can look it up, there's a good making of about this, just about the process they went through, and I found it fascinating because it was really a risk. Like the whole time, Disney was like, I don't know about this. I don't know how well this film did.
Not terribly well.
Do you know?
Nope.
No. That's a shame. Oh yeah, it made about $50 million.
Yeah, they had to write a bunch of it off. This movie did not do well, and part of the reason is because I did a little bit of my own reading. They were it was supposed to come out in Christmas of 1982, but they moved it to July when they found out that Don Bluth was putting Secret of NIMH out in July. So
really?
They moved it out of spite.
Oh, those fuckers!
Because
God damn it,
because you remember, Bluth originally brought Secret of NIMH to Disney while he was an animator there, and they told him no. So he's like, all right, I'll go make it myself. And this was the beginning of Don Bluth kicking the shit out of Disney for the rest of the 80s.
Wow. Yeah, because this didn't put Disney back on top.
No. So like when they listen to what else was in theaters that summer, because they moved it to the summer to spite Bluth, who, I mean, Secret of NIMH wound up being a big success, and then they were also in theaters at the same time as E.T., Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, and Poltergeist.
Okay.
Also Blade Runner, but Blade
That's
Runner
tough.
was a bomb too. So.
Right. Boy.
Yeah.
Poor Tron. It became a cult hit, at least.
Yeah. Interestingly, they aired it the first day that the Disney Channel was on. The Disney Channel aired its first broadcast in 1983, and it aired Tron on its first day of broadcast.
Yeah, I'm guessing Disney didn't have much faith in it either.
Doesn't seem like it from what you've been saying.
That's said. People at Pixar have said without Tron there would be no Toy Story.
Well, not people at Pixar. I'm looking at that quote. It's John Lasseter.
Is it? Well, he is the authority on that, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean he's not wrong.
Yeah. Well, no, this movie, that's what's I think the most interesting thing about Tron is how much effort, how much it revolutionized the idea that we could make CGI movies. Not that it wouldn't have happened at some point, because of course it would have.
Well, it's not even really that it's the CGI. It's the idea of blending all these different environments on screen, I think is even more. Like I might argue that you probably wouldn't have Roger Rabbit without Tron.
Yeah. It's very it's artistically it's very cool. They're doing stuff like
great.
Making filters. Yeah, they were making like filters out of steel wool to make the effects of like when someone gets poked and they go zzz, and stuff like that. There were so many filters and effects they were putting on these cameras for these optical effects.
Yeah, it was interesting watching it, because if you have an eye for that sort of thing, like I was watching, I was like, I can tell a lot of this is in camera, but I'm not sure how they're doing it.
Right.
I figured it was like rear projection and layering frames and shit like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of like the way animation works.
Yeah.
Where it's just like I said, it's the fact that they have these translucent frames that they can sort of layer on each other.
I mean, that's animation. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Animation's fucking exhausting.
Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Because you don't think about it this way, but it's like, yeah, they literally just took like a camera, pointed it at drawings, and that's the animation. They take a picture, go to the next frame, take a picture. It's stop motion, essentially.
Kinda.
But done to look not like stop motion, to be drawings. I'm reading about different inspirations. Apparently, you could argue that we wouldn't have had Daft Punk, at least the way Daft Punk exists, without this movie.
Probably not.
Yeah. And they went on to, of course, score the sequel.
Yes, yeah, I did know that.
Great soundtrack. I think. Okay, I want to predict your reaction to the sequel, because I think you will also find the sequel boring. I think you will. I think what you said about this movie, you'll probably say about the sequel, except the sequel is slightly over 2 hours long. That's the one difference. I could have went for another hour for the sequel personally.
It doesn't. I think my biggest problem is I visually I think this movie's really great, but like the story's kind of gibberish, and like the universe just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I'm just so glad they keep making it. They're still talking about a third one. And I'm like, yeah, keep it coming.
They take a hit on each one.
Yeah, but it's like again, it's like something they believe in internally, where they're like, yeah, Tron rules.
Yeah, fucking Tron.
Yeah, because it has enough cult following, and I think it's just that there's a lot of people very passionate about the movies, because they're just so, I don't know, they're so damn original. And again, visually, the Tron Legacy, obviously we'll be talking about it in that episode, but the most remarkable thing about that movie to me is I think it came out in 2010. For a film that I think the only thing people will know about that film is how shitty its special effects are. It has great special effects. It's like the weirdest thing, because they had one effect in that movie that is god awful. And that stood out. The rest of the effects of that movie is fucking gorgeous. That's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever watched. It's so well made.
The bad effect is young Jeff Bridges, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's young Jeff Bridges. They weren't ready for it.
Hadn't quite nailed that tech yet.
Yeah, I think there was an instinct where they were like, well, the first Tron revolutionized special effects. We got to do that in this one. And they could have not done that. I get why they did it. What's interesting is that there's other characters. The reason it's young is because there's a version of Jeff Bridges that existed in the computer, so he didn't age. What's interesting is there's other characters like that, and the way they get around that is they just cover their faces. And so they could have done that with Jeff Bridges too, because there's also an old Jeff Bridges in it. Much of the way there's multiple programs playing multiple people, there are multiple Jeff Bridges, or multiple people playing multiple programs. One person playing multiple programs. Go. It's all right. Words are hard. I don't know. Maybe I hope one day there'll be a Tron movie that'll actually appeal to people. I get why this is nerdy. Like, it's nerdy cult bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, if you look up Tron fan, it's not pretty. Like, I'll Google it right now.
That's a harrowing journey.
Tron fan. Google images.
You're going to get the Tron guy, I'm sure.
Yep. A lot of it's fan art, and the fan art's cool.
I'm sure it is. I get why this movie appeals to the people that it appeals to. It appeals to, I'm sure, artists and effects nerds.
Yeah.
It's just like the story is like blah. It's like whatever. The
story's pretty
care
dumb.
About this. What's funny is, like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in a very, very long time, so I had no memory of it. So all I could think of when they get to the Master Control Program is, do you remember that episode of South Park?
That they do Tron. They do Tron.
Where Kenny goes to like a Jewish camp with Kyle, and they're doing different activities, and then they sit down to make things for Moses. And Moses appears to them as the Master Control Program.
Yes, it's so good.
So all I could think of was that episode where they ask Moses what he wants, and he's like, I desire popcorn necklaces. Macaroni bean shakers.
That fucking Master Control thing is so funny.
It really is.
When they're like beating it up, it spins really fast, and it's like, well, that doesn't look good.
It looks real dumb. It has a big dumb face.
Yep. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Matrix, the Wachowskis, they owe Tron some money, because the giant face when they first talk to it, like not the weird the later thing, the like butt plug looking thing, but the first version in the computer looks like the fucking baby face in the Matrix, the last Matrix.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
The baby face. You
nope.
know,
got nothing.
So there's all right. Do you know what the Matrix is? Because otherwise you have to see it.
No, you don't have to explain it to me, which is fine. It's fortunate, because you can't be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. I just don't remember that scene.
Revolutions, is that the third Matrix? He goes and talks with the computer at the end, Neo. It's after, spoilers, Trinity gets just mutilated by fucking rebar, which is shocking. And he goes down and he talks to the computer. It's all these nanobots, and they swarm and form a giant baby face.
Okay, I've seen that movie twice, and apparently I blocked that out.
It's my favorite part. And the Matrix talks to him. And like it's a giant face is my point.
Uh-huh.
And in this, the Master Control Program is also a giant face.
It's a giant, like, I'm not sure what shape that is. It's like a...
It's like a cylinder with like a cone on the bottom, right?
Kinda, yeah. It's like a house shape. So how many sides is that? 5 sides?
It's like a dreidel.
Kinda, yeah. I think that's why one of the reasons they picked it to be Moses in that
probably
episode. Also just because it's funny.
Yes, I think it's just because a Tron reference. Tron is one of my favorite things to reference, because it's actually okay. So for the record, it's actually has 2 parts. You just don't see the bottom half as much. It's a cylinder, like imagine the what is it, carbon rod, with like if you pinch the center of it. So it's like 2 cones that meet at the tip, and there's like a crystal in the middle.
Sure.
That's where he has to throw his disc.
He throws his frisbee.
Which, by the way, yes, is just a frisbee that like a PA painted. That's the funniest thing I think about this movie, and why, again, it's part of why I say Tron Legacy is the better movie, is because since this movie, like you said, the plot isn't much, so it's all visual. The better visuals, the better movie, I think. So like the discs, what are they called? Identity discs? Or
who gives a shit?
They aren't just painted frisbees in the new one, you know? But in this one, they're just painted frisbees. The thing they're holding them in place in this movie appear to be just like cloth sashes.
Yes.
The costumes feel very homemade.
Yeah, they look like they're made from like newspaper.
Yeah, which is very funny to me. I don't think Disney gave them much money. For production, at least. Although it says $17 million budget. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
But I don't know. There's no denying this is a silly fucking movie. Jeff Bridges, when he plays Clue, he talks like a robot.
He does. It's very funny. And the scream he lets out when he crashes into the wall is extremely hilarious.
I'm glad you brought it up. I was about to bring it up. It was like this, yeah. Like it's like a comedy scream.
Yeah. It's real over the top.
Also, when they're in NCOM and they need to hack in, he does a sneaky run, and it is a goblin run. It is the funniest fucking run. It's like, imagine Jeff Bridges sneaking in your head. You're probably picturing it. Just because it's Jeff Bridges. It's like this weird little run.
Just picture Jeff Bridges shambling, but quickly.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah. There's some incredible Jeff Bridges. And again, giant David Warner.
A gigantic David Warner.
I'm not sure why he becomes giant, but it's a real problem.
It isn't, though.
For Tron. You're right.
Tron
isn't.
does a crash roll through his legs, and that's it. Like, he doesn't even have to fight him.
Yeah. A lot of Frisbee work. They talked about behind the scenes. The guy who played Tron. They had like the first screen test. They just got professional Frisbee players, which is funny to me because they knew from the start this is going to be a Frisbee film.
Yeah.
This is going to have a lot of Frisbee
We're doubling
work.
down on Frisbees.
Yeah. It's like, if you think about movies where Frisbees are part of the action, it's Tron.
Yeah. It's pretty much just
and that's
Tron.
It. Yeah. If you're into Frolf, like, this is your movie, you know? You get high, watch Tron, play some Frolf. So, yeah, that actor had to do a lot of, like, complicated Frisbee stuff. And the director pumped him up for it.
That's funny because absolutely none of it comes through on the screen. It just looks like he's throwing a ball of light that I just assumed was an effect.
The move that he points out that I will say is impressive, because the move looks like, you wouldn't think of it as a move because you'd assume that all they're doing is just hucking Frisbees at actors, you know? And then they catch them, and then that's that. But they actually needed them to do specific things. And there's one part where the light disc, or whatever it's called, I think I've called it something different every time, gets thrown at him, and he ducks it. He ducks it and then grabs it from the back of his head. And you have to kind of slow it down, and you watch it, and you're like, oh, that is impressive. Considering that he meant to do it, because it looks just like a happy accident, you know. But yeah, the Frisbee action, not much going on there.
No, it's considering that's their lightsaber. Man, you could have thought about that one a little harder.
Oh, it's so dumb.
It's real fucking stupid.
Frisbees.
Just throwing a disc. Get the fuck out of my face with that. Get out of here, Tron.
Yeah, the master control program is killed because I think Flynn jumps inside of it.
He does.
And it freaks out.
Yeah.
Because something's inside of
it.
So it's like, get it out, get it out.
If a tiny Jeff Bridges dove into your skull, you'd have a freak out.
Yeah.
Your defenses would drop momentarily.
Yeah, and Tron uses that moment to huck a Frisbee in him.
Yep.
And he is killed by Frisbee, and then Flynn gets out.
Yeah, in the movie's defense, it sounds dumb, but it is actually extremely dumb.
Yes, it looks cool.
Does it?
Well, not the Frisbee.
That's what I'm talking about. Is that
but the effects look cool? See, this is again why I will say Tron Legacy, I believe, is better.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Take the Frisbees. Turn them into fucking like Shang Tsung hats, you know, where they're like sharper, they're cooler looking, and the Frisbee work is, you know, because it's done primarily with CGI. It's one of those movies that's like CGI is, although there's a surprising amount of practical sets, but like, so they make the Frisbee stuff cool, you know. The light bikes are cool in this, but they're actually like more of an action thing. In the sequel.
Word. Shang Tsung doesn't wear a hat. You're thinking it.
Who's the one with the fucking hat? Kung Lao.
I won't stand for this Kung Lao erasure.
All right. I won't apologize because I don't play those games. They're too violent, Tom.
Yeah. Not enough light bikes and Frisbees.
Not enough light bikes.
Not enough light bikes.
I
and
love
Frisbees.
the light bikes. Fucking the light bikes are hardcore.
They sure are, man. When I think hardcore.
You think the light bikes?
No, the light bikes are pretty dope.
Wait till the sequel. Everything is just doper.
All right.
And Michael Sheen's in there.
Well, I mean, you can never make anything worse by adding Michael Sheen.
That's true.
I think we've talked enough about Tron.
I could.
I know you. I can tell that you can. Oh, there is one more little tidbit I wanted to put in that I saw. The Academy refused to nominate this film for visual effects because they felt that using computers was cheating.
That is funny.
And I got some unfortunate news for you guys at the Academy.
I got some bad news for you. You want to go back in time and show them a few things. Yeah. That's very funny because it's also like, okay, I kind of get where they're coming from at the time.
Well,
because the light bikes are just fucking shapes made on a computer. You know, like there's still art there. They had to be designed. But I could see them looking at it and being like, it's just flat visual effects. I don't know. There's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I think they're just dummies.
Yeah. I thought films had used computer effects before this.
Yeah. I don't know if any have been nominated at the time.
Well, that's fair.
But this certainly wasn't the first CGI in a movie. It's the CGI milestones when you look them up. They're all a lot of like, well, technically type of moments where it's like, well, this is known for it, but technically this movie did this one shot that was, you know, technically a computer animated shot. So it's always hard to figure it out. I think this is just a milestone in how big it was. Mm-hmm. And yeah, should have been fucking nominated. Do you know what won at the time?
Let's find out.
What was this, 1980?
This is 1980.
This was 1982, so it would be 1983.
Yeah, the 83rd. Wait a minute. No, that's not right.
Oh, you know what came out that year? People were very really into? It's that Gandhi film.
Oh, yeah. People.
You hear about this Gandhi film?
I saw this. I heard about this.
Yeah. We're really into that Gandhi movie.
Eat.
Yeah. Sophie's Choice was also there.
E.T. won that year.
Oh, that checks out. That man, we could have guessed that.
Also, Poltergeist is nominated.
It's optical effects, right? Like that's what's stupid to me. Is that their rule was like, if they don't physically draw it, that it doesn't count. And it's like they drew most of the movie, you motherfuckers. Yeah. And then a man had to sit down and design what those stupid bikes looked like, and then they made them in a computer. That's fucking amazing.
Man, we were up. Not E.T. We were up Gandhi's ass this year for the Oscars.
Yeah, Gandhi swept. Hey, it's a good movie.
It is. It is a very good movie.
That Gandhi guy is he's a pretty good guy, you know? He's pretty cool. Cool dude, Gandhi. People really liked that Gandhi, I hear.
Yeah, people were really into Gandhi.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it. That's Tron. And we sprinkled a little Gandhi on there for flavor.
Yeah, a little Gandhi. Some little Gandhi flakes for, you know. I think that's enough.
Yeah. So stay tuned later this month where we will discuss Tron Legacy, and Tom will have watched it for this first time.
This is all the
true. Director, yeah, from the director of Oblivion and Top Gun Maverick. It's good stuff, man. Tron Legacy.
Sure.
Make you love it. I'll make you all love it. Let me tell you guys about our Patreon.
Please, I wish you would.
Yeah, it's God, Tron, Tom. Sorry. It's patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. Mm-hmm. This podcast is brought to you by our Patreon. We have a tier for that, where you can make custom patrons podcasts about things like Tron. Yeah. So yeah, check that out. You could make
Troncast.
Troncast.
Talk about Tron every week.
Yeah. There is a cartoon series too.
Yeah, I saw that. We also have a store at tpublic.com/stores/gamefullyunemployed where you can check out all sorts of Tron-related merchandise.
Yeah.
We have zero Tron-related merchandise. But you can check that out. And that's it. That's all.
Tron!
Tron!
That's it.
Tron!
Duology Theater is brought to you by Gamefully Unemployed. Check out our cool shit at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed.